I hadn't heard a thing about Star Wars Visions until I saw the first trailer. But that trailer, thankfully much like the series it was promoting, was an incredible surprise. Lucasfilm giving carte blanche to 7 Japanese animation studios sounded exactly like the kind of bold experimentation that had been lacking in the Disney era. And now, far too long after the hype has died down, I'm going to talk about them all. Episode 1, The Duel, is a great start to the anthology, and a logical choice to begin with, leaning into the Kurosawa of it all. The art was a mixed bag for me, beautiful at times and kind of stiff at others. The Ronin sometimes felt like the CG characters that are occasionally in Dragon Ball, ones that are clearly on top of an image and not a part of it. Definitely not as bad. The duel itself is fun and exciting as it goes over different terrains and the 2 duelists fight for the upper hand. Normally, overdone lightsabers is a bad thing, but this one is so cool I was actually disappointed it wasn't used more. I'd recommend either the Japanese or English versions. I enjoyed both. A more than solid start. Tatooine Rhapsody is my least favourite, but I'm not saying it's bad. This is one of those cases where you can appreciate all of the elements. The animation is clean, the character design is fun, particularly Jabba's slacker teenage son and the 3-headed Oni drummer, and it expands on a largely unexplored aspect of the universe, but I just didn't care for it as much as the others. That being said, I did enjoy that they have weapons in their instruments because of course they do, it's Star Wars, and that their song, which is probably better in Japanese but in English, feels like it should be on the soundtrack to Burnout 3, and that's always a positive. Which version you watch really depends on which song you prefer. The Twins was the episode I was most excited about from the trailer, and I was not disappointed. An over-the-top fight where a Sith with 8 lightsabers fights her brother who uses his droid, X-Wing and super lightsaber to obliterate a twin Star Destroyer. This is what I thought of when I heard the phrase Star Wars anime. The animation is clean, stylish and energetic. It's a blast to watch from start to finish. So long as you watch the Japanese version because, and I hate to say it, I really didn't enjoy either Alison Brie or Neil Patrick Harris as the twins. Harris is not too bad, just kind of uneven in his reads, but Brie was completely the wrong side of ham for me. Perhaps the twins is a bit simple, but for me it was easily the most memorable. The Village Bride has a contemplative start, taking time to build its characters, world and lore before, like many a Star Wars, ending in rebellion. Although the story is similar to The Duel, I prefer this one because of its rich world, where the people live in harmony with their environment, as every living being is connected through the Force. The animation is so vibrant and enticing. Of all of the episodes, this is the one I'd want to live in, and score that further adds to the enchanting aura. There's a real weight to it. Buckethead is an S-tier design as well. Now, to nitpick, the location of F at the end in relation to everyone else doesn't make sense. She goes from being right next to them to far away, and why does she do nothing when Buckethead is drawing fire? Pedantics aside, I'd wholeheartedly recommend this one, and recommend it in English. In Japanese this felt more like The Duel but a bit slower, but in English the voice actors really brought a heart to it and that made me care a lot more. The Ninth Jedi is Star Wars. Not like Star Wars or a Star Wars anime, this is Star Wars. And the one I'd like most to become a series. From the get-go, the opening shot of space and the score, evoking that feeling of space wonder only the series can bring. It captures the analog sci-fi but also ran-down fantasy world perfectly. Both Masai Oka and Kimiko Glenn felt believable and genuine as Ethan and Carol are. The Sith reveal is a banger and the biggest oh shit moment of the series. You can already see how this series would play out. They go to rescue Kara's father, make enemies along the way, try to restore the Jedi, and probably have some will they won't they with Cara and Ethan. It does help that Margrave says most of this in the episode's least subtle moment as it pitches the series, but I'd still be up for it. I'd watch either version too, both are great. TOB1 is a charming tale about a young droid that wants to be a Jedi, that I thought was a little slow to build momentum, but by the end it had won me over. Like the other quaintest entry, Tatooine Rhapsody, it's not that I didn't like TOB1, it's just that I didn't enjoy it as much as the others. It didn't excite me as much at the time or stick with me in the time after. The Wall-E-like robot friends are cute, and his CO3 jetpack final smash at the end was awesome. Perhaps it's because the story of a droid knowing how to use the Force when droids in Star Wars are a slave race because they aren't sentient or alive, so if he can use the Force then aren't he and droids as a whole alive? It's so interesting I was more entertained by that than the Star Wars Astro Boy we see here. Which is not TOB1's fault, but damn that's a story I'd like to see. The Elders English version has a performance from David Harbour that was immediately compelling to me. He plays Tajin Crosser, a Qui-Gon-like reserved and weary Jedi who's seen it all. Contrasting this old Jedi is the eponymous Elder, whose idea of the Sith becoming stale is very modern Star Wars and one of the interesting ideas of the sequel trilogy. Their fight at the end of the shot is great, with a genuine physicality to it, with building tension, quick blows, waiting for the right time to strike. It reminded me of the final Obi-Wan v Darth Maul fight. And the moments where Tajin and the Elder's lightsabers clash are epic too. This was one of the best for me. Lop and Ocho creates three interesting characters in the titular Lop, Ocho and their father Yasaburo, and an interesting conflict between the three of them as they each struggle to deal with imperial occupation in their city and with each other's differing views on how to do so. While the story feels complete within the short as Lop comes into her own, it could also become the launchpad for a series that I'd watch in a heartbeat, as this short has well-drawn characters in both its writing and animation, incredible visuals, the Imperial mine on the coast of the city being a standout, and its blend of Japanese and Star Wars aesthetic. That being said, it must be watched in Japanese as the English dub really doesn't line up with their mouths. It's especially bad at the 5-minute mark, and for me was really distracting.
Papa, your stubborn opposition to development is just wrong! We need the Empire to provide growth and prosperity for our future!
Akakiri ends the series on a surprisingly dour note as, spoiler, the protagonist kills his girlfriend and joins the dark side in a visually arresting sequence, bathed in blood-red light as the music builds methodically. Seriously, this track is great. Containing an enjoyable performance from Henry Golding as Tsubaki and one of the series' defining images as Misa watches the rocket take off at the end, all work in the episode's favour. However, the character models were my least favourite of the anthology. They kinda look like fingers. Except for Granny Goodness, which is absolutely who this is. Except this one is an interesting villain. Golding's performance makes this an English watch for me. Now that I've discussed them all, it's time to put them in order, and wow, this really was an embarrassment of riches. 6 out of 9 were so close together that it was hard to determine any kind of order. It shouldn't be surprising that Tatooine Rhapsody is my number 9, followed by TOB1. As I said before, I don't think they're bad, I just preferred the others a lot more. Then, due to my slightly more mixed response to their art styles, we have the Duel at 7 and Akakiri at 6. As I think they can only be fully appreciated in the Japanese version, Lop and Ocho is 5 and the Twins is 4, whereas I think The Elder, The Village Bride and finally The Ninth Jedi, number 1, are amazing in both versions. Honestly, depending on the day I could have put any of these three in any of these 3 spots, but The Ninth Jedi just felt the most like Star Wars to me. It's hard to describe, but you know it when you see it, and this was it. Overall, I'm so glad Star Wars Visions happened. There was so much I enjoyed here. The spectacle of the twins, the world of the Village Bride, the characters of Lop and Ocho, the animation of them all. I hope some of these get expanded upon. So much of the Disney Star Wars has been focused on the in-between episodes 3 and 4, and mining the original trilogy for every story possible, but this was something new, unexpected and different, while also staying true to what Star Wars is. I hope there is another.